Hi all, Les from FutureFX here again. Today's video is just the newest settings video for Trend Trader. So to suit all the settings and new updates for version 6.0. Okay, so here we are on the MT4 platform. And let's go through the latest changes to the software first. The writing that shows the current trends on the 3 different time frames, it is now larger and in a pretty red color. Okay, the pretty red color indicates that they aren't lined up, so we have sell, sell, buy. When all 3 time frame trends line up, doesn't matter if there are 3 buys or 3 sells, the writing will change to green. The other visual difference is over here in the top right hand corner. We have the built-in pip calculator / lot size calculator mostly. So just read what it says. Lot size for a 0.25% risk is 0.1128. So if you want to risk 0.25% of your account balance per trade, then you need to enter 0.1128. Obviously, you can't enter 0.1128 because lot sizes can only be entered to 2 decimal places. So you have to either enter 0.11, meaning you've rounded down to 0.11, or round up to 0.12. I've left the extra 2 decimal places here just so you can see precisely what risk you would have. So obviously, if you round down to 0.11, then your risk is going to be slightly less than 0.25%. If you decide to round up and go with 0.12, then your risk is going to be slightly higher than 0.25% per trade. Okay, so that is the visual differences. Let's open up the settings. And I just want to go through quickly how you would use this pip calculator in actual usage. So open up the settings, come down to risk percentage, enter the amount you want to risk per trade. So you could have 0.5%, you could have 0.51%, you could have 1.2%, anything you like. Make sure you have the stop loss set as you are going to have it. So if you've used the optimized settings picture, put in what it says there for that particular pair. That's all you need to do for the moment. Click OK twice, wait for this to update. There we go. So now if we want to risk 1.2% per trade, we would need to enter a lot size of 0.54. Okay, and then all you need to do is open up the settings again, come in here and change the lot size to 0.54. I don't want my risk that high. I'm leaving mine at, for this pair, 0.25. Now, just quickly on that note, because a few people ask, I am currently trading on this account. Hang on a moment. I am trading 10 different pairs. They are all on 0.5% risk per trade, except for pound USD. I have it set on normally on 0.25% per trade. The reason for that difference is simply that pound USD has the tightest stop loss, so it has the shortest distance to the stop loss. And in the back testing, while it is one of the most profitable pairs, probably the second most profitable pair going off back testing, because of that tight stop loss, it does tend to take more losses than some of the others. and you do tend to get more losses in a row than on some of the other pairs that take extremely low amount of losses. So for that reason, I'm keeping my risk per trade a little lower on this particular pair. That's just my personal choice. One of the reasons is that I like to try and keep all of my pairs at pretty much the same risk, so that if I have a win on one and a loss on the other, they balance each other out pretty nicely. But because you do get more losses on this one, I've kept the risk lower. That's all. Okay, so that is all of the differences in the latest version, but I'm going to go through. So if you already understand and you've watched the other previous version videos, then you don't need to watch the rest of this one. But for those new to Trend Trader, I'm going to go through all the other settings one by one for you now. Obviously, guys, the first thing you need to do when you put it on your chart is you need to enter your license key here. Okay, if you don't enter your license key here, the software will not stay on the chart. I'm lucky because I made the software, I don't have to enter a license key. But let's go through the rest. Take profit and stop loss. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. The figures are actually in points, not pips. So this is a 30 pip stop loss, which is a 300 point stop loss. The way I've come up with these settings is off that extensive back testing over the most recent 6 months. You're welcome to use any settings you like, but I suggest you don't just guess. If you don't want to use the optimized settings that come with the software, then do some extensive back testing yourself before you actually trade a different pair with just random settings, because I know this for a fact, based off actual usage and off a lot of back testing, the settings need to be quite different from one pair to the next. I've never found two pairs that can work. I was going to say work successfully off the same settings, but a few pairs can work successfully off the same settings, but you won't be getting the most out of it. If you optimize the settings and change them from pair to pair, you will earn more off each individual pair. That's just simply how it is, because each pair works quite differently to another. Okay. Moving on from there, we already talked about entering your risk percentage. So that's how much you want to risk per trade. And then coming up here to read the lot size you need for that, and then taking that lot size and entering it in here. First profit lock activate and first profit lock, these two settings work together. And how they work is once this trade gets into 200 points of profit, it's going to move the stop loss up into 80 points of profit. So at this stage, the worst you can do is take an 80-point profit. So it's a completely risk-free trade now. I'm just going to jump down to profit lock 2. That should say activate, but I've forgotten at it. Profit lock 2 and second profit lock. They work together the same as these two settings work together, except that in this case, once that trade gets into 700 points of profit, it's going to move the stop loss up to 300 points of profit, just locking in more profit. I'm going to jump down to the partial close features now. So we've got partial close and partial close amount. These two settings work together again. So when the trade gets into 300 points of profit, it's going to close out 0.01 of that trade. So the trade size started off as 0.11. Once it got into 300 points of profit, it closed out 0.01. So our active trade is now only 0.10. And the last two settings work together as well, same. But in this case, when it gets into 800 points of profit, it'll close out another 0.01. And by that stage, we would be down to 0.09 of the trade left in play. Okay, I hope that all made sense. If not, feel free to ask questions. But moving on to the last few settings, the magic number. You don't have to care about that one at all. It makes absolutely no difference to you whatsoever. All it does is give an identifying number to each trade, so that the software itself can identify which trades it has placed, as opposed to trades from another EA or a manual trade that you may have added yourself. You can change that number if you like. It'll make absolutely no difference to how the software works. So yeah, you don't have to worry about it. Max spread allowed, 30. 30 is the default setting, and it will suit almost all Forex pairs. So, you know, I say almost because some of the exotics will have a higher spread. Out of the 10 pairs that we have optimized settings for, pound NZD possibly could be a little high. And on pound NZD, I do tend to run 45 instead of 30, but that will also depend on your broker. Some brokers, the spread will be less. You can leave it at the default of 30. But if your broker regularly gets above 30, then you need to increase your maximum spread allowed a little bit there. On indices like US 30 and DAX, you'll have to check with your broker because they can be significantly different. On some brokers, you'll need to have 500 max spread allowed setting for US 30. That'll just depend on your broker. So best way to calculate it, so DJ30 is US 30 for this broker, just a different symbol. Have a look at what the spread is. This is the spread column. If you don't have the spread column in your market watch, just right click. Hang on, I need to get rid of this menu. Just right click and come down and check the spread. As long as you have the check there, then you'll have this column, which will be the spread. So you can see the spread here for DJ30 is 354 at the moment. Now, you need your setting to be a little bit higher than that, because if this spread is higher than your setting, then the software can't take out a trade. The whole idea is to stop the software taking out a trade when the spread is excessive. So when the market first opens and when there's a very volatile red folded news event going on. So if it's early in the morning and the market's just opened, that's not the best time to check the average spread because it will be more excessive. But for me at the moment, it's sort of middle of the afternoon, my time here in Australia. So we're, getting towards the end of the Asian session. So this is just an average sort of spread, as long as there's no red folded news events on. So I need to have my spread setting a bit higher than this. And I believe on this particular broker, I'm using 450. And as you can see, Bitcoin's quite a bit different as well. You need to have a setting to suit. On this broker, I'm using 150 myself. And sometimes some brokers, gold may be higher as well, but not on this particular case. So that's how you work out the max spread allowed. The only other setting left is max trades. The default setting is 5. Now, what you need to understand is Trend Trader can only take out one trade at a time on any pair. So at no stage will Trend Trader ever have 2 trades opened on the same pair. It just can't do that. But if you have a look, these ones are squished down again, but these 2 pairs, plus all these, I am actually trading 10 pairs. So potentially I could have 10 trades open at once, 1 on each pair. And, that has never happened yet. I've only ever had it open up to 5 trades at any one time a few times. But 10 is potential, and that to me would be a little bit too high a risk. So I like to limit the number I can have in play at once by that max trade setting. So although I'm trading 10 pairs, I can still only have 5 trades open at once. Come back to the settings again quickly. So what risk you want per trade and how many trades you're going to allow open at once, and your lot size, that's all going to depend on your own personal, risk appetite. But I'm just going to use prop firms as an example because with prop firms, the main concern is keeping your drawdown low. So to do that, you really have 2 choices with Trend Trader. You can reduce your lot size, which will reduce your risk per trade, which will also reduce the potential profit of each trade as well. And or you can reduce the number of trades that can be opened at any one time. Personal choice again. Personally, I prefer to be able to have, a goodly number of trades open at once, say 5, but keep my risk per trade low. What I'm using on this is a prop account. As I said before, I'm mostly running 0.5% risk per trade, except for this one, which is 1/4. So that's your options to keep drawdown nice and low. If it's your own personal account and you don't really care if there's a bit more drawdown, you can run a higher max trade. You can run a higher risk. You could run 2 or 3% risk per trade. If it's your own personal account and you're not adverse to having a bit more drawdown. Okay, so that's all the settings, guys. That should keep you up to date and understand what's going on. The main reason that I changed the visual outlay, so it's bigger and brighter, easier to read, but also with the colour changing to green when the trends are lined up. Let me just quickly bring up all of my pairs. So I have all 10 pairs displayed there now. And just at a quick glance, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs. So 7 out of the 10 pairs, the 3 time frame trends are all lined up. So that's unusual to have so many lined up at once. So just at a quick glance, I can see there are 7 pairs that, one of the major criteria that has to occur before the software even looks for an entry is to have those 3 time frames lined up. So we've got 7 pairs there that, could potentially be getting close to taking out a trade if a few other factors fall into place. So it makes it easy to keep track of what's going on. All right, guys, that's all. I'll leave it with you. I hope that helps. If not, you know where to find me.